Hello and happy Tuesday, diary listeners. We are back with part two of our time with Ilia Sterling. Sorry, Ilia, tripping over your name. We're calling the second part of our time with Ilia "Making Space." There's lots of talk about that in this next episode, and one of the things that I have found about a lot of things is you know, energy needs to be reciprocal. And I think you'll find that the people who really, really, really want to experience life with you, to work with you, to be with you, who care with you, they will make time, they will make space. And it's all about prioritizing what is the most important. And I think that there's a lot of clarity and validity there when you really step back and look and analyze relationships and stuff. And not in a mean way or bad way, but in a way that's real. And look at it, is this balanced? And so I felt like, given all the talk and what kind of gift this was to both of us, her giving the podcast an amazing diary entry of her experience, and then us taking the time to mark this moment and making the time for each other. It was just such a blessing. So I hope you all enjoy. Welcome to the Apprenticeship Diaries, where raw meets refined.
Let's be real, we're still working on refining.
What it took, what it takes, and the stories that are made.
Join us as we learn from professionals about how their stories began.
Because Kathy, she's one of my mentors, but she's a very strong personality, and she's had a life. I mean, she's owned her own business, she's mentored people, she's all of that. So she's a very incredible woman, but she's very big about own yourself, give yourself the credit that you deserve. I'm not going to let people, blank out in regards to me. I'm here, I have space, I have value. Get with it, man. And I'm not going to deny. And that's what's beautiful about her too. She doesn't deny it to you too. It's not like I deserve all of the, because that runs thin on people. She makes you realize what you're not giving yourself and how maybe you might want to treat yourself. But she always is very reciprocate, because she was a hairstylist. She served too. So she knows how to be, a constant flow of give and take. It's been really wonderful. But I think she kind of brought the woman back into that, I'm doing tattoos. For me, in my career, I feel like, you look at it and you're like, where do I want to be? And you're looking all ahead. And, every once in a while, you need that person like Kathy, who is like, hey, being here right now is very important. I'm going to make you see it as important because I need you to be here with me. This is important. And those are gifts, and I think it might have changed the course of her whole day, probably, this line of people, that she had to do. I mean, think about what those people encountered from that artist after my friend came in and was like, I know you're not having fun, but you better get with it right now because this is your day. Whether you like it or not, it probably changed your whole day.
For sure. I think, like you said, I think it kind of gives people permission to take up that space too, and and ask for what you need and ask for that presence and ask for, I know that that's something that I still find a challenge, is asking for what I need and taking up that space and feeling like I can come in and just be like, I am here now. I'm, and
I get it.
And because I definitely kind of my unfortunate go-to when I'm feeling a bit bombarded by other people's everything,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, how small can I become so that I'm not poking anybody's pain
Yeah.
points,
Yeah.
because I don't need to I don't need to create any more drama for anybody else around me. And it ends up being the complete opposite of probably what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Because if I were to put that, take up that space, be that
Yeah.
presence, and have that leaderness of me, that uh, it might it
We'll
be the
create motion.
thermostat. Yeah, you become the thermostat rather than the thermometer. I don't need
Yes.
to take on everybody else's temperature. I need to set the temperature. And
Yeah.
like I find that with my own little family here, like it can be very difficult to set the temperature with two Leos and that they are all fiery all of the time.
Well, to
But
give you some, I guess feelings of feeling, I guess, good. At one of these art events, I met a girl. She was starting her apprenticeship, incredible artist, but she was starting in at 50. And I've
hmm
met a lot of people starting late, and I've also met and kind of feel this way a little bit, because I think that you see a lot of people, as to your point, what would have happened if 9 years ago I would have dedicated myself to this?
right.
It's easy
Yeah.
to make those kind of thoughts, but we have our journey. um, I see a lot of people that did fall into those spaces that have had to take some serious hits, along that way, because just to I think so they weren't supposed to go too far too fast, to keep
Right.
their egos
Yeah.
in check, their minds in check, their connection in check, all those things. Sometimes when you get it too fast, it's really bad. Like I've met now
Right.
people who have had to, you know, go through addiction because of that. Like there was so much money that like it gave them so much access to all this that was really bad. And they
Yeah.
had to hit these tremendous falls, in their journey, and then rebuild back up because of that. So I'd say slow and steady wins the race with this, because as
Yeah.
you said in
Yeah.
the beginning, when does your apprenticeship start? I don't know. I feel like I've
Right.
been doing it the whole freaking time. So I
Yeah.
think that's a great
Yeah.
attitude to have. I think it's a great attitude to maintain. I think it's a space that you'll constantly be given people who will come into your life to kind of, because it's just open. It's just receiving. And I prefer that. That's kind of my story. I'm a perpetual late bloomer, and I'm fine with it. Everything you're saying is very similar to like my story, and I'm fine
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
it. Like I'm not trying to set anybody else's world on fire. Like I just
I
I
if
I just
you
want to feel good
wait.
about what I've done.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I
If
and
if you
I
sorry.
no. I was just gonna.
I
I try to not interrupt, but I'm loving what you're saying. And I think
mhm.
it's all happening. I think all of those things had to be
Yeah.
built up to get you here. And who knows, you might be the epicenter or coordinator of a huge convention at some point. You know, that's
Yeah,
regular.
yeah, yeah.
It seems like you've been
Definitely. Like
given
there
a
was
lot of tools that a lot of other tattoo artists have not been given. So that's
thank
pretty
you.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
I
Totally.
think that there's it's stuff like that. Like I need to be seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like because it's sometimes the reality is it can be sometimes hard to think. I think too much of what I think other people think, and
Mm,
and like especially in like being that my partner is my mentor. He is my
hmm.
he is, and like I learned to tattoo through him,
Yeah.
and um and I think sometimes I think too much about what other people think or what other people assume
Mhm.
of, because I've been tattooing after him, like they don't know the whole story. Is this just another, his girlfriend's tattooing, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, then
and not
this is
knowing.
great. This podcast
I
is great
know.
because they were
And
asking you if you were a tattoo artist before it was even a thought in your head. So
that's why I needed it actually was a big deal for me
yeah.
to take up that space and
Yep.
say, hey, there's his story, my story, and our story.
I love it. I'm
And
so glad.
and, and like I wanted to be able to share my story of it, and like and even like there's a whole bunch more to it, like what does it look like to be the what does it look like, because there's a whole nother story of like what is it to be a partner of somebody who is a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
Because of, that's a whole other thing of its own. And especially, and it's if somebody is not tattooing and not at the shop with their significant other and like not building something together, and they're just observing and to being a different kind of support, because
Mhm.
that's been my story for part of
Right.
it too,
Right.
was like understanding what's happening when he's sitting at his desk until 2 a.m. drawing, what's happening when he's in his phone and constantly talking to people and like having
Yeah.
to stop one conversation for another, or having, like
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what it all takes to network, and like when you go to do something fun and you're going to be handing out your card and all of that kind of stuff. You know what I
Oh
mean? Like
yeah. Oh yeah.
if you don't understand the whole concept of networking yourself, and like, you know what I mean? Like
Oh, absolutely.
there's a whole others.
If you have a partner that has to be up your ass, it's not going to work.
Right.
Like it's not going to
Exactly.
work at all. Or if they're
Like
jealous
there's,
like that.
yeah, there's trust involved. There's, just a whole, and so I'm grateful for everything that I learned prior to meeting him and prior to being partnered with him. And like he did tell the story of like where I was like, well, just you've got some fake skin. If you're gonna sit here
Yeah.
and pace back and if you're gonna pace back and forth about it, just turn the stupid thing on and see what happens. I mean, and of course he was like, I don't want to do it wrong. I don't want to have a bad habit, all that stuff. But I'm like,
Screw
it's
it.
just,
Let's make abstract paintings.
yeah, I'm like, it's just another tool, kind of thing. And in some realms it is, but I totally went through that same thing too. Like sometimes I look at where I was a year ago going, like freaking out about how to put this stencil paper through the machine and getting it all bound up one time. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, and in the shop that we're at too, there's four main spaces up front. And so I started in sharing his space, and he's left-handed, I'm right-handed. So every time I would tattoo, we would have to shift everything around, even, like his barrier film gets ripped off with the wrong hand because he's left-handed. The paper towels on the wrong side, like everything. He sets in trying to teach me how to set up things, he sets it up a certain way. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, this just doesn't. So it was like adding all of that dimension to it. And then how that could be, how do you communicate as partners when you're trying to teach tattoo and you've got two different sides of the brain, really, that it feels like you're using. And so I
That's
started
awesome.
in that space, and then I moved to another. I got to the point where there was a space that opened up, and I'm like, I'm just going to move into that,
Right.
take up that space. And then another artist came on, and so then I got bumped over to the
Oh,
sink space, the smallest, like jam you in the corner a little, and I was just like,
okay.
this person's been tattooing longer than me, so
I
I'm at the
guess.
bottom. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
Oh
and
yeah.
going through those emotions of like, even the shop owner that we're at, he doesn't know my whole story. I
Right.
try to say things, but there, I'm like, I'm just grateful that I have a space. I'm grateful that I get to do what I'm doing, and and now some more things have shifted, and now I have this a space. So I've tattooed now in all four of this front spaces,
Wow.
and now I'm directly across from Elo, and my space is the best that it's been. I have flash all around me of my own flash.
Oh.
I have plants. I have everything. It's like my space,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
of
yeah.
course, we're still planning on moving, but it's like
You've
feel
earned
like
you've earned that space.
I've I've
Yeah.
I've earned and I deserve that
Yes.
space.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I really, and in this whole time frame, with his heart attack and all this shift and pivot and everything, it's kind of changed to like kind of brought us back to the beginning of what is
Right.
it that we're building, what do we want, how do and taking all of these things from all of these stories, um, and what are we doing? What are we moving? What is it that we want moving forward? What's uh, boil that whole story down to that one image, down to
Hmm.
that logo, down to that you know
Yeah.
one thing of like, what is the common denominator? What are we really trying to build? What have we learned through
Right.
this whole process? And
Right.
what do we
Well,
want?
like a logo, and this is the challenge that I have with a lot of people who are coming and trying to do those, especially the foundational logos for graphic, like when they're in the generation stage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's organic and moving, and that's what I always have to tell them is like, look, there's what you're conceiving of that has value and that we're trying to build towards, but then there's also it's only right if the reception is right. So you have to go out and beta test it and
Yeah,
see what
yeah,
it does for you and then come back
yeah,
and gather notes and refine. I said, so, let's not get gummed up in these beginning phases too, because this is without a lot of information that is not given to us. So you got to go out. You have to go out
yeah,
and like
yeah,
put it to test. And so now you guys are the center. He knows what he has to fix physically for himself and generate those kind of habits. But then there's also like, what are you guys building together? But it's going to be this thing in motion. Yeah, a shared
yeah,
vision, but
yeah,
also very much so in motion. So I'm
yes,
excited for you guys. It's very
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
It
yeah,
sounds like you guys
or
have everything you need, you know?
yeah.
It's
Well,
kind of weird though,
yeah,
because when you're given when things are kind of coming together, then you're kind of like, oh, now I really got to make this work. Like, like for me, it's like I'm like in the beginning of something that's being kind of brought to me that's answered prayer, but then I also feel this feel of fear of failure kind of thing. Like I have all the tools to your point. I've
yeah,
tattooed in
yeah,
every single place in this tattoo shop. So if anybody,
yeah,
we lost anybody and we had to replace that seat, the next person who comes in and be like, you'd be able to tell them like, just so this is the quirky stuff about this spot.
exactly, exactly.
You'd be
Yeah,
able to inform them, but like it's that ownership, like you said, sitting in your authority at this point. It's hard to feel that authoritative, but I feel like
yeah,
that's the place that you're in right now, and that's really cool. I'd love to
yeah.
like touch base with you, and like I'm sure we're gonna keep in touch because I already love both of you so much. 5 years from now, like checking in and seeing where you guys go, because I've met so many people to your tattoo stories. Like I interview them and it's before their tattoo apprenticeship and they're
Right,
wanting
right.
one. And 5 years later, they have more Instagram followers than me. And I'm like, look at you. Like, this is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
It's really, really
Well,
cool.
I reach out to some of those every once in a while. I'll reach out to some of those artists that are on my body that have now
Yeah.
become huge things, and like those little moments of Like I had somebody recently reach out and they're like, I want like an Appa and Stitch mashup. And I'm
Okay.
like, oh, that sounds fun. I like Appa and I like Stitch, and that sounds fun. And I'm like, yeah, we could do that. And then they sent me the reference, and I'm like, I know who that artist is, and I know him all the way back from 2012. And
Wow.
we had kind of like disconnected,
Hmm.
but um, it's like Russell, find your smile. He's huge.
Yes.
Like he's
Yes.
all over.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I
Everywhere.
picked it out. I'm like, I know that that's Russell's. And
Yep.
Russell was one of he was there at the very, very beginning. When I first
Oh,
got that tattoo,
what a
that
blessing.
with those conversations. So I reached out to him and I'm like, I noticed right away that this was yours. And so he actually even took the time to be like, I would change, this looks great. It's far, because I'm like, I wanted to make sure that it was far enough away from
Right.
your style and what you
Right.
do. And he's like, it's totally far away. And he's like, can I offer a couple insights? And he did. And then the person completely ghosted and didn't get it. But I loved that full circle aspect of things, of like, people have no idea that the
Yes.
story, you know what I mean?
Yes.
That,
Yes.
back, all the way back then when, uh, having goofy little interactions, and now being able to see, he has his own color set,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and
And
just
he's
different stories like
very
that.
vulnerable too with his everything, his whole journey. I've never met him as a person, but um anything that I've seen of him interaction online has been just lovely. Lovely. He seems like a
Yeah,
very, it doesn't
he's just
surprise me
a,
that that's how he'd be.
yeah, just a, goofy, funny guy and stuff. And it's just like, you know, and other, like I said, there was another artist that I don't remember how many years she's been tattooing now, but it was like she was she wasn't even, I think she was like 18 or something, when she was at the shop, and she hadn't quite started her apprenticeship, and like a bunch of the guys were just like making her cry, like just being mean and everything. And I'm like, okay, this, I don't think there's necessary of like hazing kinds of stuff or whatever. But I remember at one point, because of how you were talking about like the money aspect and like addiction and all that. And at one point, she and I were together. We went to a Chamber of Commerce meeting, both representing the shop, and there was a bunch of BMWs there and stuff. And I said to her, I said, uh, you're going to be stepping, as things progress, you're going to be stepping into a situation where if you do things right, you could just come in here and pay for a car with cash,
Mm-hmm.
and it wouldn't be weird. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you're talented enough, you're
Right.
all of that, like those kinds of conversations. Or like with the person who did the Buddha, and he came and he sat on my desk and he's like, I have an opportunity and I don't know what I should do. I want to pay honor to my mentor, but I have this opportunity and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, it's a huge opportunity. You know, you're always going to have honor to your mentor, but you have to be able to take care of yourself too. And like,
Yeah.
you're not, there's been times where I'm like, you're not, the reality of tattoo is you're not going to be at the shop forever. I've had
Mm-hmm.
that conversation multiple times with different people. And then all of a sudden they like disappear and they go do something else, and then things explode for them. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like,
There
that's
you
just the
go.
reality of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to follow those breadcrumbs. And I think I probably learned some of that too, like watching Elo too, like
Mm-hmm.
it's uncomfortable when it's happening and you end up in so many different places and there's a lack of stability and all of that. And I'm
Yes.
in that now too. I'm in
Yes.
that lack of stability, but I know that it's going to be okay, and
How does your family
um,
receive your life right now? How about external, like, your family?
um, well, like when back when I was 30 and I first pierced my nose, you know, and I'm like, hey mom, you know, oh, and I'm 30, you know, I have three
Yeah,
kids
you're
and I'm like, oh, you know, oh, and she's like, haven't you always had that? So my
yeah.
mom's always been some, you know, she's very creative too. She's always got some sort of side gig and always doing something different and creative. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, so she's just
She's been there for you,
she's
supportive.
yeah she's we don't talk very often or anything. I don't have that kind of relationship where I'm like constantly calling my mom and checking in or anything, and that's
Right.
just like how we are, whatever. And um my stepmom's a little bit more like she's been working in an office since she was 16, you know, with like work school thing, you know, and she's like, why can't you get a real job? Kind of, and my stepmom's only 13 years older than me too. So it's like a weird dynamic. But
Yeah.
and my dad's just always like, whatever makes you happy, kind of. And so and my older kids, they're 27, almost 25 and 22. And so they, you know, they're like, oh,
That's
it's
what mom
great
does.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what mom does. And I was working at that shop for
Yeah.
some of those formative years and stuff, and being an artist. And my oldest is a writer. So I try to,
Oh, how
and he's
cool.
been writing consistently every day since he was like 12 and
Wow.
trying,
How
and
cool.
he won't, but then there's that whole thing of, I'm like, you can self-publish. Oh, no, 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 I need to have a regular, you know, because mom said, you know, I'm like, you could have been out here self-publishing, going to farmers markets and or art crawls and like
Yeah.
getting yourself out there, because I watch people do it. And he's like, well,
Right.
if mom said it, then I'm not going to do it. So
No, I
uh,
know.
yeah,
That's how it was with my mom and dad too. In a lot of ways, you know, it's natural. Like there's leaving the nest. You
yeah,
kind of gotta leave the
yeah,
nest and kind of see what you're capable of on your own. And then later
yeah,
you go, oh, to your point, like what would have happened if I had pursued this 9 years
yeah.
ago? Like, wow, you know. But
And I,
that's
and I think
good.
that's, yeah, and that's the weird, you know, that's the weird dynamic of, you know, seeing where my older kids are at, and then still being very much in the formative years of, you know, with my youngest. And you know, and even Elo's, you know, being 14, you know, that's just like weird, right at that
Yeah.
weird. I'm like, there's a lot that's going to happen in the next few
Mhm.
years for him too. And, you know, it's just so a weird dynamic. Um, but I think there was a point where my counselor, my therapist, I was like, I want to move to Minneapolis. I'm going to be a part of this art scene. I already know all these people on this road. I want to be a part of this thing. I don't think there's anything here for me anymore. I'm just going to, my ex-husband can be in charge of the kids and have a, you know, eat, pray, love moment, and like just move
Yeah.
on, and I'll send for them later, kind of thing. And she's like, you have to finish your first career of being a mother. And I was like, what the? So, but that was also a pinnacle. That was also a pinnacle moment of where I was like, I came to kind of an immediate acceptance of like, all right, I guess this is just where I need to be right now. And then I met some, I asked a friend, or I told a friend I was like not moving. And he's like, you need to meet this person. And then that person like opened up that whole art community. And then that's, you know, what brought me that next step was meeting that tattoo artist, and that whole, and putting those two things together, building this whole thing. And, you know, and that's it is organic.
It
And you
is.
think about like you plant a seed in the ground, you don't see a lot of what's happening. And then it is kind of slow going sometimes when it is
Mhm.
underground, you
Yeah.
know, and then all of a sudden that shoot just starts coming up, and then
Yep.
it just flourishes from there. But that foundation and that underground part of it, that growing through the dirt and the manure of life, you know,
Yeah.
it feeds it too. It busts it open, it feeds
Yeah.
it, the whole thing.
I just learned this the
And
other day. My friend, I realized that, now on Facebook you see more ads than you do your friends. It's like,
Yeah.
where are all my people? Like, I just had this thing of like, man, there is like 10 ads between every single thing that I see of my friends.
Yeah.
Like, so I checked in with
Yeah.
a friend and she had posted this thing, and she doesn't post a lot of like her personal, but she does put a lot of like scenery out there, beautiful shots. And there was this thing about those fuzzy caterpillars, like they're
Oh,
red
yeah.
and black. And I never knew this. It was something I learned that day, that those caterpillars actually get frozen and thawed out
Yeah.
for like 13 years before they become
It's
a moth.
crazy.
It's so
Yeah.
crazy. I was like, what? And like, same thing with a
Yeah.
dragonfly. Like, a dragonfly spends most of its life, in water in this whole other state before it becomes a
Yeah.
dragonfly for like what, 2 weeks?
Or
Like,
like, I think, was it earlier this year or last year that was all the cicadas, and there was like
yes. Yep.
the two different kinds, and one of them was like
Yes.
underground for like 13 years or something ridiculous.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
there's also many years ago I went out hiking and read this little sign, out in the middle of the woods, and it said, it was talking about jack pine, and that those pine cones don't open unless there's a forest fire. So,
Wow.
and so
Wow.
they're just there dormant until there's a fire, and then those are the things that like
Birth. Wow.
reforest the
That's so cool,
for
man.
fires.
Well, and I wanted to
Yeah,
offer this to you. I'll not take her story away, but she, not by announcing her name, but she came to me. She was younger, and she completely had a very secure career, and a real job, and left it to be a tattoo artist because she felt the calling
hmm
of it. Well, and that's why I asked about your family dynamic, was because that was a huge thing for her. That was a huge thing for her. And to what you said to this young apprentice who's 18, I pretty much said the
hmm
same thing to her, because her family was not cool. They were not cool with
yeah,
this change. She was like really being maligned. And I was like, well, here's the thing. If you stay in touch with their family, please let them know that the amount of money and the amount of freedom that you're getting through this job is so vast that you don't have to deal with them at all if you don't want to.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so the reality is that if you interact with your family at all, that is a huge choice that you're making. And if they want to squander that, by giving you a lot of guff for pursuing your passion, they might lose you. And I always think back to, like, to give you, I guess, this feeling of more space and a more acceptance of the journey and like where you're at right now. I think about things like biblically, like King David. Like, he was a
hmm
huge icon in the Bible. I mean, he did so many things right with God, but his family life sucked. Like, it was
yeah,
awful. It was
yeah,
so much that was terrible. And it set all these other dramas into motion. Yes, that led to Christ and everything, but he was a great leader, but his family life was horrible. So I feel like, what you sacrificed to at your therapist, saying, hey, don't let this first job fall off. Now you
right,
have all the foundation to take your family into this and graduate that into what it should be, so that none of that falls apart. Because if you had done all the
right,
rest of it, it would have fallen apart. And so my friend who's having this other experience, now she has to like own tattooing, which she's really good at, but also try to bring her family back into it, which is still
yeah, yeah,
very hard for her. So like it still is this whole like thing, no matter how you do it. Like, no
yeah.
matter how.
And
So I think it's really great.
I think that's what I've said to you before, like I really appreciate you giving, a space and a voice for all of those stories, because everybody's journey is completely different, and there are a lot of similarities, and we can like connect over a lot of things, but we all kind of have to live our own thing. And I think, you know, like that's another thing of just being able to see, you know, like Elo's story is very different than my story, even though they're connected. And sometimes I even think about, like, in his story, had he not struggled, had he not had to go from shop to shop to shop, had he not had people tell him, we don't need you, or you're not, you know, like, for him, that's like, he needed something to show him how strong he was and how much he could push and how much he could, like, grind, like those, that whole feeling. And I don't know how much of that is just male and female or whatever, but it's like he needed to awaken that warrior in him of, like, I need to fight for this, and I need to grind, and I need to, like, put in the work, and I need to, like, shoulder it, and I need to like raw this thing. And I think that sometimes, like, it's great when he's like, you got to do, this is what worked for me, and you got to, and I'm like, you know, it's very interesting. And I know you don't have any kids and that kind of thing, but that I look at the 4 births that I have, and the one that was the easiest was the one that I didn't do that for, the one that I didn't push hard, the one that I didn't, like, go, you know, or like, get in the, you know, it was the one that I was just like, you know what? I am like a beautiful flower that everything is just opening. And I didn't have any pain meds. I didn't have any drugs for that or anything. It was just like, it was this beautiful, organic, orgasmic, amazing, just the nurse looking at the monitor being like, are you having a contraction? And I'm like, yep. And she's like, well, you don't look like it because the monitor says you are, but your body says you're not. And I'm like, it was just a different experience. And I think that's, you know, I think when you're the firstborn, first grandchild, first everything, leader, Pluto in the first house type of person, you know, that's
already built in. That's already built in. Yeah.
That's my lesson is to, like,
let go.
Maybe it's okay for me to be the let go, the pretty flower, because I'm not I'm not the pretty, you know, like,
yes, you are.
Well, you know,
yes, you are.
I don't feel like I've been given the princess role. I've been given the queen role.
Yeah.
But even in that queen role, I, you know, like, being able to be receptive, be open, let that flow. You know, I've been listening to Rick Rubin a lot, and I read his book a while ago too, but, you know, all the production and whatnot, that he talks a lot about how just that creativity is for him, it's like an offering to God. It is like, he's not going, this is what people are going to like, and this is, you know, what's going to sell records, and this is what's going to, you know, he's just like, this is just my offer. This is my offering. And if I don't do it, or I don't see these patterns, or I don't try this thing out, it's going to come through somewhere else. And because it's just a natural flow that needs to grow. And I think that's the thing, is me being able to tap into that is probably where I'm going to blossom even more. So
I think so. I think that you've had to, it sounds like, embrace a lot of, and you asked, I don't know what's male and female. I think you've had to embrace a lot of the male. And now you're probably able to step into your femininity. Whereas reverse for Elo, he's probably more inclined to be more of like that feminine kind of leaning, but he had to step into that male space for a lot of reasons. But it sounds like both of you have had to do that in your life so that you could be more balanced for each other. And I just see the makings for so many cool things to pop off from here, man. Like it
Yeah,
sounds
yeah,
really, really exciting.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm sure there's going to
It's
be a lot of grit behind it, you know, but I see a lot
yeah,
happening with you too. That's really, really cool. Very, very
yeah,
cool.
yeah. I am I am I am I'm constantly grateful for him, and especially since July, like I feel like it's like a you know I oftentimes am just wake up and I just look at him and I'm just like,
Wow.
like I
He was
said about
almost not there.
that
Yeah.
yeah, like well like
Yeah.
that friend, like I said, that I miss, like smelling her. I'm just like, you smell good, because
Aw.
it's for however much you can remember about people, there's
Yeah. They say that
something about that,
olfactory
like
is that point of remembrance, the olfactory. So
yeah,
I actually have a
yeah,
girlfriend who works with Hopkins and does like scent therapy with people,
mm-hmm,
just to kind of put them in a state where, that's relaxing to de-escalate anxiety, trauma, all those things,
mm-hmm,
like the olfactories are huge for that. And just kind of getting your mind right and teaching them, if they're feeling a certain way, maybe bring in a citrus or something like that that can invigorate
yeah,
you, or
yeah,
like just these things that she teaches people. Like these smells are very core to promoting
yeah,
action in certain ways or to de-escalate in certain feelings. So that's a key
yeah, yep,
component.
definitely,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah.
I love
So
your
so yeah,
story.
so sometimes I'm just breathing them in, just sniffing
Yeah.
away at them. when, well, and neither one of us, I don't remember if he told that story, that part of it too, is that neither one of us used deodorant or anything like that, because that was just like a thing, of like,
Yeah.
there is something about that natural,
Connection.
yeah, and
I love
pheromones,
that.
etc. Like, you know who somebody is if you can, like, I don't
Yeah,
know,
smell
smell
them.
them. And other people might have different things, but well, that's a thing, I guess, for
That's wonderful.
who we are.
How
Yeah.
uh did it just organically flow into I'm going to apprentice you? How did he become like your mentor?
Um, I think we talked about it at different times, and um, it's it feels a little blurry, really, right now. Of like, I had kind of shared some of those things of like, what if I had started, and like he, was showing me different things about like how to shift my artwork, or giving me assignments and all of those kinds of things. Um and then at some point, I'm not very good at following directions when it comes to assignments and stuff either. Like, I'm just not, I guess. I don't know. Um and, but there was a day he was like, so do you want to learn how to tattoo? And I'm like, yeah, fuck
Yeah.
yeah. And then I went downstairs and went and just tattooed myself.
Oh, that's
Went down to the
awesome.
shop, and
What did you
and
tattoo on
and it, I mean
yourself?
it, and it was like we had talked about it for months and months,
Right.
and I had been drawing and I'd been doing all this stuff, and like
Right.
trying to. There was a time where we had to like be in two different places, and I had to get back to it. And he's just like, I could get you going at this time, and then I went and got a job at a restaurant. It's just like this whole. There's
Yes.
been too much of like trying to build some kind of stability,
Right.
um and feeling like that was just a challenge in itself. And um but then it was just like that day, and it was, what I tattooed on myself was a mushroom design that I had drawn up like
Love
quite a
it.
while before. Like, it was just from my sketchbook filled with all kinds of stuff. And um and as soon as I started tattooing it, I was like, I love this. I love doing this, even though it was like on myself, and it's freaking painful when you're doing it on yourself on the top of your leg like that. And
Yep.
I'm all hunched over and
Oh yeah.
trying to figure. figure
blocking your
out how
light as
everything,
your
yeah, trying to figure out how everything works.
my apprentice was like,
But
I can't see. And I finally
yeah,
stuck a
well, we
headlamp
were,
on her.
yep, we have a
She was like,
headlamp. And, and well, and then, I'm, I'm 50 and sometimes I'm like, I got to put my readers on to freaking
that's awesome.
tattoo.
Yeah.
And but that first piece, I was like just partway into it, and I'm like, I love doing this. I love this. And
Oh,
and then
that is
show them
not
and the
a
and the
very
owner,
common feeling. Because usually your
and
first tattoo, you're like, oh my God, when will this be over? When will this be over? Oh my God, it's taking so long. So I'm glad that I mean, it sounds like you
it was
waited
great.
all the way to where you could really love it.
Yeah.
That's really
Well,
cool.
and then I showed the shop owner too, and he's like, I don't know why she hasn't been tattooing this whole time. Like that looks great. Like what the fuck's taking you so long? Kind of thing. And so,
Your work is very
and
clean. I've looked at it. It's
thank
very
you.
clean. Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Totally.
I get a, I, well, I do have Elo as a mentor. So he's like doom zooming every single thing. And he's like, and there's a blowout and there's a blow. And I'm like, oh, and there's this and there's that. And that's tiny little bit. And so now I like doom zoom on everybody. And I'm like, that person's been tattooing for 10 years and I can pick stuff out.
Yeah.
That person's been tattooing for 20. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I think I'm doing okay. And so
I'm glad that you loved
I,
it. That's
yeah,
great.
and there's been a couple other tattoos that I've done on myself where I'm like just in a grumpy mood or whatever. I'm like, oh, and but I love tattooing. I love I I do overanalyze every single thing I do, but then because I want it to be perfect. I want to do a great job. I
Yeah.
do think about the fact that I am 50, and sometimes I'm like, you know what? What if I only have 10 years of this? What if that's all I'm given? Because at 60, it's just like too hard for me for whatever
Yeah.
reason. Or
Yeah.
maybe I'll be, there's that stick and poke that's like 109 or whatever she is,
Yes.
she's
Yeah.
flirting with everybody when she's doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. You
I
don't
could be
know.
doing it I don't know. I could be doing it forever, but I also, I think I appreciate it more because I know that I'm starting when I am, um and I'm not taking anything for granted,
Mm-hmm.
and um and that, which goes back to that beginning of like, maybe I've just, this whole thing has been my apprenticeship, and
Absolutely. Absolutely.
all of those years and all of those lessons and all of the everything, it all counts, not that anybody's counting, but
Well, I
it
am. I
all
mean, you are. I mean, it does all matter. It all
yeah,
matters. Yeah.
yeah.
And you're right. The one of the brainchilds for this was taking a Toastmasters. I was a part of a Toastmasters
Oh,
group, which,
yes, yes.
you know, international place for leadership and communication. And the last speech you have to give is an inspirational speech. And I was really, really struggling with it. And my boss came in and he was my mentor. And he was like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, you're struggling with inspirational speaking. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm not inspirational. Like, I listen to people to be inspired, but I don't know how to inspire people. And he said, do a timeline of 5 years, just 5 years of your life, write it down. He's like, I think you'll find an inspirational speech in that. And it was so
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
true. I looked at the last 5 years and I was like, whoa, I've done a lot of stuff. A lot.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was very and it was incredible because I didn't even talk about all of it. I kind of rushed my speech. And all these people that were part of my group kept coming up to me afterwards and being like, "Oh my God, that's so cool. Can I introduce my daughter to you?" And all this stuff. And I was like, "Wow, that's crazy." And I rushed my speech. But that really helped me be like, okay, people don't give themselves enough credit for what they do all the time. There's an
Right.
inspirational speech
Yeah.
in anyone's story, I'm sure, if they really looked at it. And that's what I really wanted to give voice to, was that
Mm-hmm.
process. Because I mean, I live right across the street from a happiness coach. She coaches in happiness. And what I realized is that until you're able to really embrace that journey, happiness is always going to be like way out here. You'll never get it until you realize that the happiness is the journey. It is in doing those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what you're existing in. You have to love that part. And
Right. Right.
so I was like, oh, that's so cool. I want to help people step into that, because I know it'll be an accelerant for so much. So that's part of this. I mean, it's this
Yeah.
whole podcast has evolved. I wanted it to just be interviews about apprenticeships, which, in a large part it has been, but for whatever reason, God didn't want me to have that right away. I'm not meant to be some kind of huge, big person in the tattoo industry. I don't think. I think I'm just meant to be this, because there's already that. That's a lot of other people are that. I think this is where I'm supposed to be, because this is what I can give the most to. And
Yeah.
God wasn't going to let me just be with these elite tattoo artists and stuff, and talk about their apprenticeships and things. I think it was very much so, no, you got to stay with this group of people. These people need you. And they're only going to really, unless you bring them on, because then you can connect the people that are here, that are way up here, with these people that are so hungry right here. And it's worked out in a really cool way. Plus, I've found it very cathartic for me, because no matter how much I've wanted to keep journals, I suck at writing in journals perpetually. I really do. I do 3 or 4 journal entries, and then the whole book stays unfilled. This has
Yeah.
been a constant thing for me. I've fallen off a little bit. Like this week, I didn't have a diary entry. I have a very, it's an integral following, but small. And I've just allowed it be this organic thing that just is whatever it needs to be, because I don't get paid or anything like that. It's really an apprenticeship in all of this anyway. And for me, it's just been a continual journaling entry, where sometimes it's meeting you guys and hearing a story. Sometimes it's personal and it's about me, but it's really been cool. And I want to keep it on no matter what iteration of it exists, because it's just not only is an accelerant to kind of push you, but it's also a grounding thing that at any point in my journey, if I get stuck, I now have annals that I can go back to and listen to where I was. And that's really important too, to touch base, your whole reset with Elo. What are we making here? Let's get foundational here, because we've had something critical happen that has shook us.
Right.
So let's cut out all the rest.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and even,
cool.
I moved out of my apartment and into his apartment, and I'm like, it's literally having to cut ties with stuff and throw off everything that hinders kind of a thing, and it's like, I don't need this many of this, and I don't need this, or even books or whatever, what is weighing that isn't going to help us keep moving forward, just
absolutely. And being above a tattoo shop, as I know you guys is, a lot of that stuff, books, for example, proposing to the owner, like, hey, can we start a little book nook here or something like that? I have all these books. I want them to go to somebody who loves them. If they come in and they see something they like, can they take it? Or can they,
for sure.
Because I want this to go to the next person who needs it or whatever, it makes it easy when you're above a business, and it can add to his whole thing too. like this doesn't serve me anymore, but maybe it can serve something else, which is also a great thing about art, because it's this constant, death, rebirth, death, rebirth. You have to take something, alter it, and create something new continually. So I'm very excited for all the things that you guys are doing. I'm sure it's a lot right now because you're all on top of each other.
Yeah.
But I think it's really, really cool, man.
It'll it's all there's the interesting thing when you go through something like like a heart attack or whatever, and even like from the outside and like being a part of that, and like those 3 days at the just how all of a sudden time just
Yes.
slows down, and then there were times where I was looking out, there's just those giant windows, and was over looking over St. Paul, and I could see the cathedral and the Capitol from the window, and just all these cars just buzzing in and out on the freeway. And I'm just looking at all of that, and I'm like, here I am in this pocket of this room with important people in my life at the verge of who knows what.
Wow.
And all of that's just still happening there.
Mm-hmm.
But what's important is like right here, right now. And how, after 3 days, and then you're re-emerged back out there into that world, and it's like your perspective changes, and like it feels weird. It feels like everything is seen through a different lens for a little while, if not forever.
Yeah.
And there's it's a very interesting process. So
yeah, no, totally. No, I understand a lot about that, and it gets bombarding too, because it's what are you supposed to do with this new perspective? Generally that's a question that I ask people, but I don't really want to ask it of you, because I feel like so many things are in motion and popping off. Of like, what's next? And be like, I don't fucking know. I'm just
I don't know.
I'm just trying to be here.
And I mean, and that there's lots of times in my life that have been that. So it's like, all right, well, at some point maybe it'll be like, what's it like to just have everything taken care of and it's fine? Like, that might be an interesting thing to.
It's good to know you would want to explore that, to know that that's a want of your heart. Like, I think that's really great. What person can come in and take care of this aspect of it, because you were that for that shop owner in a big way, for 9 years. So what person might wander into your life that opens that up? I think that's really, really cool.
Right.
But it seems like you both are very much so paying attention, and I don't want to ask what's next, because you guys have already done so much already. Like, there's been a lot of movement for both of you, that I think it's a really, you're moving towards a lot of what's next. So it sounds like it's doing that already. What work do you like? And it doesn't have to be tattoo centric or something, but you mentioned Russell and.
I took I took a Domestika course. You can take.
What's that?
Have you ever heard of Domestika? No. It's there's like an app and a site and all this, but you can there's all sorts of different things that you can learn too. But there are a bunch of tattoo artists on there, and some of them are from overseas and stuff. And Ollie sits. I don't remember how to. I don't have any idea how to say her name, but it's like she does a lot of where everything is like very gold. She knows how to do those gradients just right where things look gold. And I took that course with her, and I thought that was really, really cool and fun. As far as different artists, what? I really am kind of at that stage where I'm taking in a lot. I'm taking in a lot, looking at a lot, finding what things that I like tattooing, what things people are they're what things are people are taking notice of when I tattoo it.
Mhm.
So that is why a lot of that floral stuff does come up, just because there's I like the fact that I've been doing enough of that that I feel like I've been given the opportunity to kind of keep working on it and try to perfect it in my own way.
Yeah.
Um,
Floral is really
and
good
and
for
I
that. And
yeah,
no matter how you do it, like
I mean,
flat,
because there's a there's
yeah.
a lot. There's a lot of it that's it's simple, it's organic. You can kind of mess it up, and it's still gonna be okay.
And it
And
also doesn't
you know what I
offend
mean? Like,
anybody. I haven't met anybody that's been offended by
yeah,
florals. Like it's kind of a good thing to camp in.
right.
You can't get mad
Um,
about it.
but I don't know if there's necessarily any particular artists right now that just are like, oh, I just can't wait to see what their next thing is. There's some stuff that is like, uh, is it Max Murphy, I
Oh,
think?
I love Max. He's local to me.
Yeah,
I've met him. I wanted to get
yeah,
a
that,
tattoo by him, but it didn't work out for me
yeah,
because I had to expend money towards my home. But I love Max. He's a sweetheart.
yeah, some of that, like
He has a
that
graphic
looks a
design
little bit
background.
yes,
Yes.
that so that, and you can tell, or like
Yes.
that mid-century modern, and like just there were aspects of some different time frames that in art that was just like simplified or concrete almost, Bauhaus kind of just form and function kind of stuff, and like
Yeah.
how does that translate to tattoo? And like, like I do love some like trash polka kind of stuff, but it's almost like it's to the point where I'm like, okay, that's kind of kitschy now. What else is there? But
Yes.
like some of
Yes.
those things that are just kind of like fringy on the edge of like, how did that how did they make that tattoo? Or like
Hmm.
it's like the embroidery stuff when it first started popping
Yes.
off. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, so I like some of that stuff that makes you go, wait, what? What?
Yeah.
How did that?
Max is a
That's,
great
you can do
example
that?
of
Yeah.
that. He's a great example of
Yeah.
that. And just like, I mean, right away, like when I approached him,
Yeah.
he had like now he has hundreds of thousands of followers. And it was really only over like a year and a half that it got to be like that. But when I approached him to get tattooed, I think he had like still more followers than me, but it was like I was like, oh my God, how do I not know about this amazing talent that's right by me?
Yeah.
Where have I been? And then I realized that he was still very new in the game, and I was like, how are you this good? Like how? And then he told me that
Yeah.
he was a graphic designer, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
can see. That makes perfect sense. And then
Yeah.
just to watch him just scale like this, he's incredible. He's incredible. I really do hope I
Yeah.
get a tattoo from him one day, but I'm really not in that phase of life right now. I'm in
Yeah.
the whole like, what are you doing with your life? Maybe then you can get a tattoo.
Like this, I don't know.
Oh, that's gorgeous. That's stunning.
Uh,
That's
and
beautiful.
so that one is Michael Perry, who
Okay.
he was out in New York, and then he's in California, but he came for a guest spot, and I did some like, promotional stuff for him so that people would come to the shop, and it was like 25 below zero or something, and like nobody nobody showed up, nobody
Wow.
showed up because it was so below zero. And um he's like, I just want to do one of these designs. And I'm like, well, I really like that one. I'll
Yeah.
totally. I'm like, I literally have like no money for that. And
Right.
so here I get a Michael Perry for $20 tip. And this is
Oh,
like
that's awesome.
crazy stuff. And he's
Yes.
like, well, because I did all that promotional stuff for him anyhow, and it was so cold. We were just there. But it was like crazy things like that in my story too, and like that was
That's
at a
really
time where
cool.
he wasn't, as far as like those fringy things of like doing things that are a little bit different, that was like before he was doing all of that jagged cut stuff,
Yeah.
before you were really seeing that, those layered things. It was very
That's
early on.
crazy.
So,
That's awesome. I love
and
that.
so I like paying attention to things that are right on that edge, right on that
Right.
new, like I haven't seen it before, or just the people that are just, you can tell that they're having fun, like,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
um,
No,
and
I've always told people, like, if you want to step into the next phase, oftentimes, you don't get that perfect client who just is willing to pay for it. Sometimes you have to give it away. Sometimes it's something where you're like, you have to love it, want it enough that, it's not about the money. It's about, I want this to be a part of my portfolio. This is what I want to do. So sometimes you give it away so that you can, because people don't let you do typically stuff that they haven't seen you do. So,
right, right,
once they see that you've done it and it's been really successful, they're like, oh my God, I want that too.
yeah, yeah,
So that's a neat way to phase into the thing. Is I usually, and it's the same thing, like I pick a person who's in my life that has done something for me or who's connected to me anyway, and I'm like, oh, how do you feel about this? And same kind of thing. We've already had an exchange, so this is honoring that relationship. Sometimes I've given them far too much, but whatever. Whatever. Like
it all comes back around. So,
I have a personal philosophy that the things that other people do to me mean more about them than they do about me. So,
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
and what I give somebody else is a genuine extension of my caring. So no matter what
yeah,
happens to the relationship, I know what I put in. I can sleep,
yeah,
So whatever
yeah.
happens from there, it's like, maybe it would have been cooler if I had had better boundaries then, but I didn't. But I was genuine, so
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
very
There was a
cool.
there was a point in that same vein. There was a point where I was like, I want to treat other people how, I mean, it's kind of the golden rule, but
Yeah.
I want to treat people how I would like to be treated. I want to, if I feel I need something and it doesn't exist, then maybe I'm here to create it,
Yep.
and like that kind of thing, like,
Yeah.
and I think that that's what I'm moving forward to too, is I'm grateful for the things that Ela and I have both experienced separately and together, as far as, how would we run a shop, or what is it that we value, what is it that we need, what didn't work, and what did we wish we would have had, or whatever,
Yeah.
those different things. And like, we get to we get to I kind of played a game like last week. I was just like, let's just pretend if this was our shop, because we're
Yeah.
there mostly during the day, and then others are there later in the day and stuff. And I'm like, so there's kind of some aspect to it where it's almost as
Just
if
you
we're
guys.
there,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, if this was our place, what would you do? Like, what would you change? What would you, whether it was aesthetically or like how things run or whatever. And it's just kind of like a fun game of,
Yeah.
what are we going to do? How are
Vision
we going to do
boarding.
things? What,
Yeah.
yeah. And, and I think there were, in that same questioning, I was like, so that's what we would do. How much of that can we actually do right now? It doesn't even have
Right.
to do with the fact that we own it or not.
Right.
Like bringing plants to my
Yeah.
space,
Oh God, yeah.
or hanging up more flash in my space, or
Hmm.
whatever. Like, it's my
Yeah,
space.
dude.
I'm gonna do that. Or,
Yeah.
you know,
Have you thought
advertising
about
the
integrating your because you do readings as well, astrological readings. Have you
mhm.
thought about integrating that at all into the
I
tattooing?
I have I have for a couple of different people, actually, like given readings prior to the design. Like, they came with a certain kind of concept of what they wanted, and then I um pulled their charts, gave them a reading, and I talked about how, even though they were, this sign, they actually have all of this in their chart. And like, how can we change the coloring to
Right.
represent that, to make sure that that's in, or,
That's
add that
awesome.
element to it, um, or like somebody wanted, a tattoos that represented themselves and their kids and their moon signs and their sun signs. And so we like, taking their
Integrated.
idea, adding that information and putting that together.
How cool.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe once we move out west, there's going to be more interest in that kind of thing, just because it's, the coasts seem to be a little bit more progressive and coming up with different ideas. And
Well, is
sometimes
there,
the Midwest is not necessarily, like I
well,
add barbed wire.
I think it
I
goes
add
back.
barbed wire to the flowers, and now everybody wants them. I don't know, like, oh my gosh,
Well,
okay.
no, I mean, it's like the storm in a teacup kind of thing. Like, those
Yeah.
juxtapositions of those two ideas. They run the vein of people, but I feel like the struggle with the Midwest is less it's that religious conflict of like, is astrology okay? And
Yeah. Yeah.
you've lived both realms, and
Right.
I personally, God is not limited for me. God, the only thing that I overtly will not do or will not touch is anything that I feel is just overtly satanic, or if that's what the
Mm-hmm.
person is trying to do. Is I'm trying to piss people off. I'm trying to instigate. I'm trying to corrupt. I've done those
Right. Right.
tattoos, but since I've come to Christ, I'm like, nope, because I know that'll hurt you and it'll hurt me long term. So those are things I will not do. But anything else that's an exploration, I think, we have these conversations in my church, and what I feel from a lot of the people in my church is this urgency to like get people to come to Christ, like this, like we got to get them now, like tomorrow could be rapture, like whatever, like we got
Yeah.
to get them
Yeah.
now. And knowing my story, knowing your story, and all these different stories is like, I have a lot more peace about that, because my story was so weird, and I would have never imagined being here right now. Like, never
Mm-hmm.
imagined being this fulfilled, this at peace, this sated, and this dedicated to believing this way. Just 10 years ago, I would have been like, are you
Right.
kidding me?
Right.
So I know how awesome God is. I know what God will lead you through so that you find him. Like I know what that journey is like and how crazy it is. And I don't feel this urgency. And I also don't feel like anything that got me to this point is without meaning or relevance or value. It all needed to happen to get here, to get me to
Yeah.
this and I almost feel like I'm a part of my church to calm them down, to like let them know, like, listen, man, God's got it. A true testament of faith is that where you lie in all of it. You're not the one. He's the one. You're just a little
Mm-hmm.
agent that moves some things around, plant seeds in people's hearts and stuff. But I think the separation for a lot of what you might be experiencing in the Midwest is that there isn't a connection that people feel to those things. Maybe I don't know, something that can integrate both, so that they don't feel like they're, I don't know, sipping their toe into the devil's
Right. Right.
water,
Yeah.
like,
It's
or
hard.
like even just
It's
tattooing.
But it's like there's like nothing meant for you will pass you by, kind of a thing. And like and um and that's what came to mind with all of that. And also like when, because I totally know what you're talking about, when there's like the people that they just feel that urgency and everything, and it's that what comes to mind with that is, through faith, not works. And humans, that because I even get caught up in that of like what we were talking about with the grinding or not grinding, and so that works part is I need to like focus on that faith part of just like being open and receptive and everything, and just as humans we oftentimes are like we get
Yeah.
stuck in that works part, in the doing part, in the like
Yeah.
grasping part. We have to make something happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, and I also think that there's room for both,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, um, there are a lot of people they don't have to. I think it comes back to energy, really, the energy behind it. Like
Right.
the people that are coming to you that want specific tattoos like that are in a state of anger. Of course, you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to want to do that, but there that if the energy behind it is the imagery, there could be very similar imagery with very different energy,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
you're setting the boundary around what energy do you want to be a part of, what energy do you want to be
Yes.
in
Yes.
placing into their body, because
Yeah.
that's that practitioner part of it
Yes.
for you. And
100%.
what part are you sealing into their skin,
Mm-hmm.
you know and
It's fully
and
loving.
yeah.
Like I want to fully love my client. Somebody asked me
Hmm.
and they were like, well, what did, this is a couple interviews ago. I didn't know where it would go. He actually asked me more questions than I asked him, which was kind of neat. I said, well, it's about fully loving someone. I have to feel like I'm fully loving them, that I'm giving them my very best, and that we're existing in that space together. I don't think it's worth the money. Honestly, I can't charge that kind of money if it isn't that, because it could only be
Yeah,
that
yeah,
for it to be valuable, valuable for me and for them, and this beautiful exchange. So you're right, it is the energy. It's what I know they're after. Can I give that to them? Can I fully dedicate myself to that and care about it through and through, the whole way through? Kind of like a doula, like you're helping
yeah,
somebody
yeah.
birth something. I want to coach you through it. I want to be there for you. I'm going to love you the whole way through. So both of us can sleep at night, and something
Right,
really
right.
cool happens with that. And I've just found that anything that is contrary to that is going to hurt me. It's going to hurt my soul if I force myself to do something that I feel a conflict with. That's
Yeah,
going to do
yeah.
damage to me. And I know that even if I'm able to convince myself to it, if there is that hesitancy and I'm sending them out into the world with that, I can, in the beginning, that was what it was. It was, well, I don't believe this. So, and you seem like you can take care of yourself. So who does it matter to me? Well, I mean, it does now for me, because I
Yeah,
think that was a very young assertion of like, oh, live and let live. Your journey is your journey. What do I care? But I've stepped more into the mother and now crone kind of phase of my life. Like those two things, there's like, oh no, it all
hmm,
matters. I don't want to do anything to anyone that's going to hinder their growth or keep them at
yeah,
odds with the world around them. That's not going to be okay. And it's not okay to be a part of it. Like whatever I was able to justify before, I'm not able to make those justifications anymore.
yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
not. So you're
You're at a
right.
stage where you have that. You're at a stage too where you have that freedom to be able to, you
Yeah.
know, live in that. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, because there
Yeah.
is very much like when you're first starting, and at where I'm at too. Like there's some things that there are some things that I've ended up doing where I'm like, I really didn't want to do that design for multiple different reasons. But there's some
Well, it's an
early aspects of
experience.
where you just feel like you don't really have much choice.
Hmm.
If you because there's some of that early on too. It's like, well, I'm only making this much an hour, or or even prior when it's just for tips and stuff. And like, well, if I don't do this, I don't have money for food right now. You know what I mean? And like that early part is just
It's exactly what I said
super.
to my apprentice. She was like, so I'm really struggling, like, like, and she wasn't really like, she had security systems that were there for her. She's a little younger,
Uh-huh.
but she didn't want to rely on those things. She's trying to be an adult and
Hmm.
make good money, but she was in the phase that you're talking about, and she's like, so should I, like, I'm getting asked to do a lot of tattoos I don't want to do. What should I do? Should I do them to get the experience, just to get time under the needle? And I said, how hungry are you? How hungry are you?
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
just looked at me, and I was like, well, seriously, dude. Like, it's a real question. If it's going to mean that you're not going to be able to eat tonight, well, then you might not have a choice.
Right. Right.
How hungry are you? If you're sated enough that you are willing to risk not doing those things to see what might come, well, then you might not be starving. Like, check in
Right.
with yourself, but I can't answer it for you. I'm like,
Right.
you're going to have to make a decision about where you're at right now. And if you're hungry, take them. It will never be bad for you to have done those things, because, as she said, it's time under the needle. It's
Yep.
time practicing and being in that space. And even if it doesn't feel great, you're learning still. So there's value there. There is value. And then you learn your threshold too. So say you get that money, and then something else huge comes in, and it's this huge thing, and then you're like, oh, maybe I didn't really need to do that. Maybe that wasn't really what we needed. I did it because I was scared, but then
Right.
when
Yeah.
something
If
else
there's,
comes, you're like, wow. Yeah. But that
yeah.
is, like
Yeah.
you said, that whole through faith, you know,
Hmm.
we have to learn to trust these things. We have to learn to fall into these things. Right after COVID, I hired a business coach because I was like, where am I? Like,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
been a tattoo artist now for 11 years consistently. And I kind of feel like I'm here, but like, what is the rest of the world doing? Like, I don't even understand if I'm okay. Like, if this is okay to be this person, because, life has been popping off around me in a million different ways. And we were in this, kind of standstill reassessment period. So I was like, well, maybe I should, be with a business coach, and maybe I should get this more like tight looking. And every time I try to do that, I fail. I'm not an organized person. I'm not, however much I find, I value it, because a lot can happen with that level of practice and consistency and everything. It's not my vibe. I had to eventually say to him, I was like, I love this. I think this is awesome. I just don't know how to do this with you. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I don't know what to talk about right now. Like, progress has happened. I don't know how. I'm able to eat. There's money in my bank. I'm always able to afford my bills. I don't know how. It's not your plan. I don't even know what plan I'm on. I'm like, but for whatever reason, it's just working. And I don't even know how to recant it to you in any way that makes sense. I don't know how you would scale this. I don't know. I just don't think
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I don't know how to be accountable to you with this. Like, I don't even know how it
Well,
happened.
and maybe you and then having to ask, like, is it even something that you need to scale, or can you
Right.
just can you just be okay instead
Yes.
of
Well, that's what I told him.
following,
I said,
yeah,
I think I
following
needed
all
to
the
pay
people that are
you.
like,
I think I needed to pay you just to figure out that I was fine, that I'm
yeah,
okay. And he goes,
yeah,
I just want you to know you're much like most of my creative clients. Most of my artist
yeah,
clients is exactly what we come to. He's like, I'm here whenever you need me. And I was like,
yeah.
cool.
That's when I had I left one counselor, therapist, went to another one because I was like, I feel like I've outgrown what that first one can do for me. Found another one, went to it, went to her, and like one of the first couple of times shared some, couple of times that I saw her, and she's like, so what is it that you really want to get from me? Because you already have all of the tools. And I was like, yeah, I guess I've graduated from this. I guess,
Yeah.
I guess I just,
Yeah.
I gotta
Praise God for
want to
her.
kind
She wasn't wanting to
yeah,
take
kind
your
of,
money. That's
yeah.
great.
And I'm like, that's why I kind of posted the other day. I'm like, I'm just out here raw dogging life, like don't have therapy,
Nah.
not using no drugs, no alcohol, no nothing. I'm just out here raw dogging life. Just,
Well, no, I
so
mean, if anything, you're just a perfect example of what other people can do. Like you have gathered all the tools. I don't
yeah,
think you're raw dogging it. I think you literally have stepped in to you've done all the trials. Like you said, when did
I've
it
done this.
begin?
Yeah,
I've done it.
yeah, yeah,
I don't I think it would just be hard for you to give that to another person, which you might find in like when you take on an apprentice.
yeah, yeah.
How do I navigate that? That was a challenge for me because I didn't want to hinder her experience. I don't want to take
Mm-hmm.
away from something that I think is necessary for her to feel. There's the tattooing that's there that has to be solid, but other than that, I really wanted things to be very organic and not take away from what she might find within all of that. And that was hard because she was like, hey, like you should be teaching me this, or I don't know why I'm not getting this from you, or this person does this over here. And it was all this comparison. And I was like, listen, man, I guess, but you have a full studio of people that if you wanted to learn that
Right,
aspect, go
right.
talk to them. Like you have all these
Yeah.
people that you can ask from. I mean, I am not going to be the epicenter of information for you. And if that is the case, worry because I can barely handle this shit myself. You do not want to do the Amy plan. Okay. Like it will blow your mind. I was like,
Yeah.
don't use me as your basis for reference because I can barely handle it. So I was like, you're
Yeah.
just going to have to find your own way. I'm here. I'm here for support. That's it. But articulating certain things was very difficult for me because it was so organic, my experience, that a lot of stuff I was like, just do it. And she, like, to you and Elo, just do it. And she was like, oh, I don't want to do it wrong. And I'm like, well, you're gonna do it
Yeah.
wrong. That's silly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, but
Doing
you'd
it
be
wrong is part of doing it right.
well, and there was just many moments like that. Well, what if I fail? Okay, well, what does that look like? What does
Yeah.
failure
Fail
look like to you?
forward. Fail
I was like,
forward,
do you mean, what if you die? Like, like,
Yeah.
because to me, I always try to think about the worst. Like, what would be the worst case? Like, what is your failure? Like, let's think about this because actually with tattooing, I don't know. I've been given it. There's a lot of grace you find in tattooing. It's really, really, really hard, I think, to really fuck up. Like
Yeah. I mean,
truly.
I've seen some pretty terrible things out there, but
I've seen them too, but
it
I
is,
could hardly.
it's like super stark of like, how could you even do it that badly? Like,
Well, you're seeing that now,
I
but
mean,
I don't. Sometimes I feel like the things that I've seen are really bad are people who are not. They weren't trying to be a tattoo artist, or that wasn't even the goal. Like it was like, oh,
yeah,
you want to be a part of this gang? Well, you got to get a tattoo by Bob, and
yeah,
and
it's
then you
just,
see like, oh my god, look, what did you do? But
yeah,
that's why we're here. We can cover those things up. We can help
yeah.
them.
Ah, well, I am actually, I'm seeing the time, and I was told Elo, and I'm like, it'll be fine. We're probably not gonna be talking that long. And he's like, well, just
Not
you
with
watch.
me.
You'll
Not with me.
you'll both start talking, and you'll both start talking. But we have early out and conferences today and all of that.
Wonderful.
So yeah.
It was
and but
it was a great time. I love this time with you, Ilia.
yes,
You're awesome.
yeah. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for like I said, giving the space. And I'm glad that I'm glad that I felt comfortable enough with barely knowing you. I felt comfortable enough to take up the space to say, hey, I want to tell my story too.
Me too. Me too.
So
And that is a huge
I appreciate your energy and presence in that. I knew that you would, I hoped that you would be receptive to that. And so I appreciate that.
Hell yeah, girl. Thank you. I mean, it's a blessing all the way around. I mean, we won't be able to get that time back. So I'm really glad that we did something and made something awesome with it. And now it'll be there for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. Is there anything that you want to say before we just wrap up that maybe we didn't get to?
I would say to anybody out there that's listening to this, it's never too late. And just it's never too late, and you're not going to know until you know. And like Abraham Hicks says, you never get it done. You never get it done. You never do it wrong, and you never get it done. And you never get it wrong because you never get it done. Like it's always going. It's always organic. It's always that pushing the envelope and keep going and having that curiosity and that playfulness. And you're just like we were just saying, you're really not gonna screw it up that bad, and just
in retrospect.
Right. And because if you look too closely at the bark on the tree to the point where you're just scratching up your face, you got to take a step back and just take in the whole forest. And
I love it.
And don't forget to look up.
Okay, diary listeners, that wraps it. I'll not belabor much because Ilia really left us with wonderful words of wisdom. So all I will ask you to do is to make sure that you are following her anywhere you can. Start first on IG. It's Ilia Sterling Designs. That's ILIA Sterling, like the metal, Designs. Go there, check her out, root her on, engage, DM if interested, all of those cool things. As you can tell, she's a lovely human being. And Ilia, so many thanks. You and Elo have been amazing. In fact, I'll let everybody know this little teaser, but Elo and I met earlier today and did a second diary entry because we had more to say. So look forward to that into the future. And then we're going to get him and Ilia on together. So there's going to be quite a really big and cool Elio spread, like timestamp in history. And I'm very excited for this. So both of you, thank you so much. Listeners, God bless to everyone. Make it a powerful week. Love ya.
Thanks for listening. You can find the Apprenticeship Diaries on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our IG is the_apprenticeship_diaries. If you would like to offer constructive criticism or an interview, drop us an email at theapprenticeshipdiaries@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from our listeners.